Whitlock, Antonio Brown playing to you for the MVP Sunday?
As well he should be. Chris Collinsworth was first in on this. I'm very happy to be second in on this. The guy has a case to be the MVP. Vegas is recognizing it now. People are starting to understand this is a historic season Antonio Brown is in. And it's reminiscent of the way Jerry Rice once dominated the NFL. And Jerry Rice probably should have gotten an MVP during his illustrious career. The right thing to do if Antonio Brown comes out, because we know Bill Belichick is going to do everything in his power to take Antonio Brown out of this game. And if Antonio Brown manages to have an impact, whether it's through the return game, whether it's from the screen game or whatever, reverses, whatever they have to do, it's like Charles Woodson winning the Heisman when he was at Michigan. You know, cornerbacks don't win the Heisman very often. Antonio Brown as a wide receiver can win the MVP.
I just don't even for a second buy it. I don't think historically receivers are relevant to Super Bowls and championships. I've always said they're icing on the cake, not the cake. Cake is line play and quarterback and coaching. I'll give you an example. The greatest actors of our time, Marlon Brando, Laurence Olivier, there's a lot, Jack Nicholson. They've had a half dozen bombs each. Brando may have had 8. Why? Because they get the attention, but writers, the great writers in Hollywood's history, have very few busts. Writers are the keys to movies. If they weren't, then De Niro would have 40 for 40 hits. But he's had 6 or 7 poorly written movies with no plot, the arcs don't meet, and so he's had busts. Writers control it. Offensive lines control this game. Even Brady can't do it without an offensive line. But the movie star is the wide receiver. So we do this all the time. We give the running back, and we give the receiver and the return guy credit. This game is fundamentally about a coach on the sidelines and the offensive line. That's what,
So Desmond Howard didn't deserve the MVP of that Super Bowl when he dominated.
No, I'm not saying they can't be in a game. I'm saying MVP is for a 16-game season. Antonio Brown is not the most valuable player in this league.
Yeah, I think one of the problems that you have with the wide receiver position, like you said, you can't make a cake out of icing. You got to have some eggs, you got to have some flour, you got to have all those things, right?
Good icing cake.
Yeah, just straight icing cake. But they're one of the most dependent position, if not the most dependent position on a football field, is the wide receiver. So can he be an MVP? Sure. You show me a game this weekend where he has 3 TDs, 220 yards receiving, and 12 catches, and Brady gets shut out, and then we'll talk. Now we'll have a new conversation. But until that happens, against Brady and against Belichick and against the Patriots, I just don't think it's going to happen.
No, I agree with you. I don't think it's going to happen. But think back at the beginning of the season. Remember how much heat we were giving Ben Roethlisberger, saying, okay, maybe he should retire. Is his head not in it? He's not playing that well. That's the reason why this offense isn't moving at the beginning of the season. Now you look at it, what he's been doing. Antonio Brown is the most targeted receiver in the NFL. Okay, he's leading all categories right now.
Well, he should be.
And as well, he should be. And I agree. I think if you take who's more important on the Pittsburgh Steelers team, if you took Ben Roethlisberger off that team, the backup quarterback, would they still have the same amount of wins? If you took Antonio Brown off there, that's the way I look at it. Would you still have the same amount of wins? Quarterback is always. That's why they're the MVPs, because they control it.
Right, yeah. Brown's not even the MVP of his own team. It's Roethlisberger.
Well, think about this.
You're wrong.
Just think about this. In most positions, who is the last 15 years the greatest left tackle? Jonathan Ogden. Most believe. He's got a Super Bowl. The greatest quarterback, Brady, got Super Bowls. Lawrence Taylor was the greatest pass rusher ever. Reggie White, Super Bowl. I can name the 7, 8 greatest receivers of all time, and only Jerry Rice, due to Montana, has Super Bowls. Randy Moss doesn't have any. Julio Jones doesn't have any. Calvin Johnson doesn't have any. I mean, I can name 20 great receivers. 18 don't have a Super Bowl. You start going to the best quarterback, the best lineman, the best left tackle. They have Super Bowls.
Well, listen, and that's why Jerry Rice was special. Because, again, he was so dominant at that position. He was a major factor in them winning Super Bowls. And Antonio Brown this year is having a Rice-like season. And Jerry Rice finished second in MVP voting once. Right now, Antonio Brown seems to be scheduled to finish second. How can the guy who may finish second in the MVP vote, it's preposterous for him to win MVP. If he's right now slated for second, he's got to be in the conversation. And if he outplays Tom Brady and a defense set up to stop him this weekend. I just don't understand how you guys are acting like it's crazy for this man to be the MVP.
It's like back to movies and acting. You know, you have they have best supporting actor. He could be best supporting
That's a good
actor.
one.
He's not the main guy. He's not Tom Hanks. He's not that.
Best supporting MVP?
There are 3 phases to football: offense, defense, and special team. There's a likely chance this man is going to play on special teams this week in the return game. He's going to be instrumental in 2 phases of the game. Right. Field position is critical in football. Listen, man, we want to reduce football just down to the quarterback. I'm completely against that. Just because every year we get a Heisman Trophy, we get into it's quarterback. So these other positions matter. I know they've changed all the rules and everything's
No, they do.
dedicated
Sean
to
Lee, Luke Kuechly, when they leave, their defenses aren't the same. You know, I mean, what I'm saying is, I agree with you. Great linebacker play, especially a guy like Kuechly, who's a talker, Sean Lee, Shazier. They're not the same defense without him. What I'm saying is, the receiver tends to get so much hype because he is the greatest athlete. He is on an island. He makes spectacular plays. The left tackle, Tyron Smith left, the Cowboys couldn't get a first down. He returned, Zeke's still not there, they're winning games.
What this guy has been doing with his feet on the sidelines is special.
It is.
It's
I'm not
different.
denying
Not everybody can do that,
Listen,
and it makes a difference.
If he can line up at corner and intercept Tom Brady, I'll give it to him. I need him in all 3 phases, Whitlock. All 3 phases.
Whitlock, will Cam need to step up to beat Rodgers and the Packers Sunday?
Yeah, he's got to step up big. I'm expecting a monster game from Cam.
Oh, you are?
I think he goes over 175 yards passing. I think he'll throw less, keeps it to 1 interception. I think he may complete 55% of his passes. If he does those things, they're still going to get beat by
It's really interesting. I got to give Carolina's coaches, I said this the other day, when you're a parent, you always know how much responsibility to give your kids. You know which one should be executor of the will,
Right.
which one you give money going to school. Parents know that. Carolina coaches, and this hasn't been given much fanfare, have really reduced Cam's authority on this team. He doesn't throw for over 200 yards. In the offseason, they said, we have to shift what he does. This Carolina offense is really not that dependent on Cam. McCaffrey, Samuel,
Let me tell you.
He's 17th in attempts
Right.
in the NFL. He's by Blake Bortles.
Let me tell you why you're right and why you're wrong. You're right that they don't count on him in the passing game because he doesn't have the requisite skill set to be a guy that has a great accuracy and can beat you from the pocket. Here's where they do count on him. When you go to play Carolina, you're going to play in the SEC Auburn. That's who you're playing. And nobody in the NFL prepares for it. So you've got 3 days without practicing pads to deal with all that zone read, all the play action that comes off of that stuff, all the unique running game. That's the advantage they have. They don't need him to throw it for more than 175 yards. He threatens, just his presence alone threatens the back end of a defense to where you can't constrict. All of a sudden, there's a big cutback lane, and a guy like Stewart takes it 40 yards. Because of the way they construct their offense, it is as unique as any offense in football right now, and it literally is like going to the SEC and playing one weekend and then scrap piling. There is no carryover from your preparation from the last 4 weeks to when you go to play Carolina. That's where his brilliance is.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I think they need to step up if they want to make that Super Bowl run. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers is coming back with a chip on his shoulder, no pun intended, to make sure that people know that I'm Aaron Rodgers and I'm still one of the best quarterbacks in this league, and this is the situation that he loves. So his game, I'm almost 100% sure it's going to be at that high level. Where Cam Newton, he doesn't have to play at that high level like we've seen. They're winning without him playing at that high level. But if he can just turn that corner, this team right here, I'm telling you, if they catch fire, specifically if Cam catches fire, this team could be a Super Bowl caliber team.
By the way, Green Bay has allowed points on 100% of red zone drives. Only team in the NFL. So as much as we're talking quarterbacks, it really may come down to, can Green Bay's defense make just a couple situational stops? They are the worst red zone defense. Everybody that's gotten into it has at least has had a field goal.
I think it's tough for the reasons Mark's talking about, where Cam Newton and his running really makes it in the red zone. You're because you can rely on him in the running game, you're at least going to get a field goal in that situation. I don't know his stats in terms of interceptions in the red zone. I would tend to think they probably go down. He probably throws his interceptions in between the 20s. That's me speculating off the top of my head. But again, I'm going to answer the original question, more seriously this time. I think Cam Newton's going to have a for real quarterback game. It won't just be about him running the football. He made a big play at the end of that Vikings game with his legs and won that game for him. It's going to take more than that. It's because everything else he did that Sunday, the last Sunday, was very mediocre and should have gotten them beat. Yeah. He's going to need more than one big play against Aaron Rodgers.